We want to understand a lot more about, the field of software engineering and, everything that you're in. But let's briefly touch on the social media side of things.
I'd probably have to start out with how I even got to the social media space to begin with. And from then onwards, I noticed that a lot of brands don't necessarily look out for niches or specific categories of people. They look for you. That in turn helped with a lot of collaborations that came along with it. And those three pillars were skincare, lifestyle, and tech. The tech situation helped because I'm a software engineer, as you guys already know. So it was a natural step for me to create content about that.
To go into coding or figure out tech, that says a lot about your level of curiosity.
Actually, on that note, I think kind of explaining just for our audience that aren't familiar with a lot of these terms, what exactly is front-end development?
So
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to yet another episode of Cyber Digest. And today we have a very special guest. She's a software developer and a TikTok sensation.
Yes, sir.
But before we get into that, I'm not alone. My name, as you know, is Khotso Mashiane, and I'm joined with my co-hosts.
We are back, baby, with another episode of Cyber Digest, where we decode the digital matrix. And of course, we are not alone. We are joined by a very special guest. And alongside is my co-host.
Yes, sir, Ski. What's happening, everybody? My name is Romeo Sevilla, back with another one again.
Yes, sir.
Today, we are joined by a woman in tech.
Our very first lady guest, unfortunately
Can
for
we
us,
have-
it's our fault.
That's our
Congratulations.
Welcome,
Mika.
Welcome, Mika.
How you feeling?
good, really good to be the first woman, and I really hope I'm not the last.
No,
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 not.
Steph.
Thank you.
So, welcome, obviously, to Cyber Digest. Thank you so much for accepting our invitation. We want to understand a lot more about, the field of software engineering and, everything that you're in. But let's briefly touch on the social media side of things.
Cool.
You told us before camera started rolling that you're involved with numerous brands. You've had so many brand deals you can't even begin to count. Just tell us about your experience with that and how it's somewhat related to technology.
Okay, so I'd probably have to start out with how I even got to the social media space to begin with.
Okay.
And it firstly started during the time of COVID. I was actually bored. My little sister, at the time, that was when, the likes of TikTok was known for just being a dancing app. So I kind of found it childish.
Right.
But at the same time, I was also bored. So I didn't dance. No. So if you scroll on long enough, you're not going to see me dancing. But you are going to see me talking a whole lot of nonsense. And that, in turn, to a certain extent, also kind of helped with my confidence as well. You're speaking to yourself to a certain extent. So you just keep speaking. And from then onwards, I noticed that a lot of brands don't necessarily look out for niches or specific categories of people. They look for you. And that in turn helped with a lot of collaborations that came along with it. And I guess to a certain extent kind of niched myself to make it easier for brands to find me too. And those three pillars were skincare, lifestyle, and tech. The tech situation helped because I'm a software engineer, as you guys already know. So it was a natural step for me to create content about that.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's amazing, man. And touching on that, the software side, interested to know, how did you kind of find yourself in that field?
It was a joke. So in grade 10, I took three subjects. I took geography, physics, as well as drama, right? And geography was the subject I let go of because there were times during break times, when you guys come together after class and stuff, and there were people in IT that had code, so they printed their code out. And there's a terminology that exists in code called loops, right? So I asked them oh, what's all this pieces of paper about? And they're like, no, don't worry, we'll keep you in the loop. And I'm like, okay, cool. And I kid you not, I dropped geography so I could understand the joke. So when I dropped geography, I took IT. I know, sorry. Yeah, 16-year-old me. Yeah, we're not going to talk about her. So I took IT and I failed the first 2 terms, I think it was. And I think I was too persistent to accept the fact that I dropped geography to just fail. So I persisted, type. So I consisted and persisted, and managed to get my way through it.
So you dropping geography
Yeah.
to go into coding or figure out tech, that says a lot about your level of curiosity. Right? How can you explain that, in terms of your curiosity levels? So for instance, if I put it in a simple, like you and take requires a lot of creativity.
It does.
Being technical, and in order to be really good, you need to have
Curiosity. No, I
So
understand
how
that,
has
yeah.
that helped you?
Got you.
Kind of.
So in uni, by the time third year comes, the particular university I was at was called Belgium Campus, IT University. And it was a 4-year degree where in the 4th year, you need to do an internship as well as your mini thesis, right? Mm-hmm. So in 3rd year, there's a whole lot of prompting that happens amongst like the students as well as the lecturers to be like, hey guys, you need to start looking for internships, start looking for companies that you want to work with while doing your thesis. As a result, you tend to kind of see how these companies like want to find candidates. They don't just find candidates that are, you know, stuck on the curriculum that the university has, but they want to find people that are super curious about tech itself. You know what I'm saying? Because tech is ever evolving. It's not just one thing that's static for the next 5 years. I mean, AI was actually always there, but it started booming a whole lot more in the past 2-3 years. And if you're not curious about it, you're going to miss the train.
100%.
You get what I'm saying?
Can I actually get into that a bit more? Because like a lot of people are saying that AI is new. AI has just, you know, sort of started. What did AI look like? Maybe let's say before 2020. Obviously now we're very familiar with, you know, LLMs like ChatGPT,
100%,
Gemini, etc.
100%, yeah.
But what did AI look like, and what were people necessarily using it for before the boom?
So I'm trying to think of like a very, very simple, similar case. Okay, so editing pictures as an example, right? In order for your device to recognize that you want to remove this object that exists on a photo, it needs to first figure out what it is.
Sure.
And AI in and of itself is just a whole lot of generated text and knowledge over time. Oh, crazy. Yeah, it's a bunch of generated text and processed knowledge over time. So it built off of that. Like, I needed to recognize that that's a cup that you want me to remove. So I'm going to remove it as a simple far back case. Now it's a lot more complicated, but yeah, that's a simple example.
Interesting.
Okay, cool. So now we've sort of touched on, you know, Belgium campus, your academic life. How have you seen that the combination of your academic life and professional life has sort of contributed to your problem solving skills? And how have you seen that working in your life inside and outside of your profession?
I don't think my academics play the biggest role. I do think experience does. So I think my academics assisted in terms of laying the foundation and knowledge and logic, I guess, for solving problems. But you only know as far as your textbooks and curriculum can get you. After that, you get to deal at work with like actual experience, like practical experience. My degree at the time was very theory based, so I didn't get a lot of like hands-on stuff. So by the time I started working in my internship, and mind you, I didn't even work at like BBD to begin with. Am I allowed to say that actually? Sorry.
Of course.
Go ahead.
Of course. Rep.
Yeah.
I mean,
I'm
come
going to touch on that
on.
as well. What's coming up with
Okay,
BBD.
cool.
We'll
Okay,
definitely
cool.
touch on
Sure.
that.
So before I worked at BBD, I actually worked at a marketing company called Tradeway. And they wanted in-house devs to help develop their website as well as their application. I think from there onwards, the experience helped me a whole lot more than I think my academics did.
There's something I do want to touch on, and it's kind of the pace within the tech world, and it's become quite relentless, especially these days, and the amount of learning that you constantly having to do, and especially, you know, this always new frameworks to learn. One thing it's React, one thing it's and then next it's Svelte. So how do you kind of navigate the learning path, you know, and kind of deciding what's worth learning, what's just a trend, what's you know, here now, gone tomorrow? Because there is a lot of learning, and how do you kind of evolve with the times and this constant change?
I think that, okay, firstly, I don't think there's anything that's not worth learning. I do think that each piece of tech or each piece of new frameworks probably that come into play, it's worth touching up on. Like, just take a look at it, read it. You don't have to invest into it. But I do think maybe to like not get so overwhelmed with all the new things that come about, probably focus on your lane. So I'm a front-end developer primarily, right? And with that comes a whole lot of, you know, frameworks like you mentioned, like React. I'm primarily actually a React developer. So in that being said, you do get exposed to a bunch of other frameworks that also come into play, like Next.js and Angular. And even though that's my lane, front-end development, React, I still want to, know what that does. Because I don't think I'm going to stay a React developer forever. I still want to know how the other frameworks work so that in the event that, or if I ever move, I would still need to be capable enough to adapt and learn on those.
Actually, on that note, I think kind of explaining just for our audience that aren't familiar with a lot of these terms, what exactly is front-end development?
Cool, got you.
What is it that you do?
Okay.
Even just the framework itself React, just kindly unpack.
Cool. So there's an application, Instagram, as an example, right? The way it operates in terms of when you click on this button, it's supposed to take you somewhere. That has to do with the logic of the front end. I make a button that says go to whoever's profile, and I need to build the logic that takes you from this page to that page. So that's front-end development, right? And how React comes into play is that it is a framework that consists of JavaScript. JavaScript is a language that the computer is able to recognize to build not just like the front-end portion, but also the back-end portion. But we'll get to that now. Yeah, I think that's a good
And then how closely do you guys work with like UI and UX designers?
That's pretty cool. We actually work quite closely together. They actually irritate me. So, so UX designers, I love to call them dreamers because they really try to build a Spotify within a YouTube, within an Instagram, all in one application. And we have to actually build the logic to make it happen. So we work quite closely together to let them know of their limitations, our limitations really, in terms of making their dreams come true.
Oh, so does it, sorry to cut you off, brother. So does it start with them first?
It does.
And then,
It does. So
okay.
typically how the production chain would work would be, your client saying, we want this, that, and the third. And then UX designers might inflate them by saying, we can even do this.
Oh my
Yeah,
God.
just viewers, we can even do this. And they're like, yes, let's go. And then they come to us and they're like, this is what the client wants. We're like, you're lying. This is what you said you wanted. And
This
told
is
them.
your vision.
I've actually seen a lot of like TikToks and content kind of about like the whole world, especially within the working space of tech. So you get maybe sometimes a product manager who kind of overpromise to clients like, oh no,
we can do this and
yeah.
that
So
and
we
the
got
third.
this new feature coming out, and then this new button, and then it's kind of this trickle-down effect where the people working in the back end or even on the front end now have a lot of pressure on their shoulders to deliver this. So I don't know if you've kind of experienced
Yes,
that.
every day.
Every
I have
day.
a UX designer that I work quite close with. Bless his heart, but like, what are you doing? What are you doing? Why are you telling these people we can do this?
So you basically humble everyone and bring them back down to earth.
I try my
and say,
best.
this is what's realistic.
I try my best, but at the same time, I mean, that's like you said also, having to broaden your knowledge and try and figure out, is it possible? I mean, you might not know now, but if you
Sure.
take your time, like even after work, if you have to upskill and try and find whatever, fixes or solutions that they are, you can try. Yeah.
I think the theme here is curiosity.
That's
Yeah,
it. That's
right.
it.
And continuous learning.
And so I wanted to ask, so beyond the technical skills, right? What are some of the challenges that you've kind of had to face within your profession,
Yo.
right? And then follow up is what has also been most rewarding?
Wow. Okay, cool. Yo, that's actually, I love the question. So I think I'll start with the first one, right? One of the most rewarding ones. So in my first year, I'll actually start at matric. So I applied to Belgium campus and then I got in, yay, happy days. And by the time I took the degree, or before I took the degree, my brain was focused on so many different subjects, English, ALO, whatever. And all of that had to hone in into tech, computing. That was what I was doing at the time. And I went into it thinking that it was going to be exactly what IT was, in high school.
Sure.
It wasn't. So as a result, there was a whole lot more dedication that needed to be put into trying to make the degree happen and work. As a result, I got a really good mark in my first year. I think I was
Nice,
like 87%.
nice.
The
Nice.
third in the year.
Excellent,
That's
clock
so
it.
Thank you so much. But it also came with having to prove people wrong. So as you guys already know, software development, but the tech industry in general is very male-centered, and that there's just a whole lot of men and not a whole lot of women in there, and now you have to subsection it and then make it black women. Wow, we're a minority. Do you get what I'm saying? So there has been a time during lectures where a lecturer would come up to me and ask me, do you understand, twice, whereas the other class would be like, okay, cool, you guys got it, whatever, kind of thing.
Also, like treating you almost like a slow learner.
Do you get what I'm saying, right? And though I was, I guess, to a certain extent timid, which would probably be fair, so why they would ask me, I don't think, it was in good conscience. So to answer your question, then one of the things that does drive me is the fact that there aren't a lot of women in the industry, and I would like to put like my foot there to say that it is possible. And one of the things that I did, tap myself in the back was that getting third in the year.
Oh, beautiful.
Ooh.
Yeah.
No, fire.
That's fire.
Can you tell us just a bit about the event you recently spoke at, or have spoken at? And was that centered more around women in tech? And can you just delve deeper in on that?
Shame. So the event actually didn't happen,
It didn't end up
unfortunately.
happening.
So it's actually getting moved to November, but I can give you like a gist of what was supposed to happen.
Sure. Okay.
So the company that I was supposed to have a talk with, I think it was Girls Code, if I do remember correctly. And effectively it was supposed to be just a talk about how I got into the tech industry to begin with, almost similar to how this conversation is going. Yeah.
Okay, and then you also mentioned something about BBD.
Yes.
Before we started this, can you just break down first of all what BBD is?
Cool.
And when the event is happening, what we can expect from that event as well.
Cool.
And who should be going as well.
100%. So BBD is a software consultancy. It's actually called Barone, Budge, and Dominic. 3 surnames put together by our founders.
Okay.
And the tech conference that they're holding is called Escape Conference. It's on the 4th of September. Myself and my co-talker, her name is Risal Rafi, we're going to be talking about IoT particularly, and how our fields are combining to create a smart mirror. So she's a back-end developer. So she's a back-end developer primarily. I'm a front-end developer. I love JavaScript. She loves everything back-end related, but her main field is also AI. So so we're putting our passions together to create a smart mirror, because yes, we are women, we love looking at ourselves in the mirror.
Nice.
But let's make it smart.
That's fire.
And speaking of women in tech, right? I just want to touch on the misconception, as you mentioned, that it's male dominated. It's only been the male figures who get the media spotlight. But recently, we've seen with Scale AI, right? So Scale AI is like an annotation company, right? Founded by Alexandra Wang.
Okay.
Then the co-founder is a female called Lucy Gu. So Meta recently acquired 49% of Scale, which then made Lucy just get up the ranks in terms of her value and how much she's worth and stuff. So they bought the company for like 14 billion. So she immediately became a billionaire, right? And then while on that, the ex-CTO of OpenAI, also a woman, who was able to raise $2 billion before even starting anything, right? So it goes to show that behind the scenes, there's women who are actually making some of the pioneering machines
100%,
actually
100%.
perform at the level that they're performing. So what I wanted to ask, with the mirror idea that you have with your friend, what are the wishes or goals that you have for the whole idea?
Okay, so she, I guess also to put into perspective as well, she's also a person of color too. So I think one of the things that we wanted to achieve with the talk was the idea of collaboration. So because she's primarily on the back and I'm primarily on the front, and a lot of the times these two tickets, if you will, would be split. But we wanted to emphasize the fact that you can learn from each other. You don't have to be so focused on your lane. You can be interchangeable too. The second thing that we also wanted to bring up is that we did it ourselves as two girls, kind of thing. So to, just lift up that women can do it. You don't have to depend on anybody else to help you. And I think another last thing that we wanted to do was to just broaden, I think, each other's understanding of tech. I don't know anything about LLMs in particular, but I wanted to learn more about it. She doesn't really know much about like JavaScript and the whole, website development, HTML and CSS. She wanted to learn more about that too. So
nice. I like that.
So let's dive into AI. I think it's been such a huge elephant in the room, especially within the tech space.
Right.
Yeah, and especially for, I'd say, junior devs. I mean, traditionally, junior devs, they'd come in, they'd write like boilerplate code, or they'd fix some just straightforward bugs, or create like basic unit tests. But now, with the introduction of AI, especially agentic AI, you have these kind of models that are able to kind of automate a lot of these processes. And so it's harder, I think, these days, especially 2025, for junior devs to either break into the field, or they're required to know a lot more than traditionally people had to know. And so I don't know what you'd kind of advise, because you started off, of course, as a junior. Advice that you kind of give to junior devs out there, as far as kind of breaking into the field.
Right.
Because sometimes it does feel like, you kind of have to compete with AI in a way. I don't know. Yeah, it's getting weird.
No, I understand you. So AI is not always right. And I think that's the reality of it, right? AI can be your best friend. It can be a tool, but it's never your go-to, right? So I think the one thing that we're even teaching our grads now at BBD is that you are more than like allowed to, for example, use ChatGPT to get like the syntax right, for example, right? Or to get like, this is how I think you should approach a solution, but to also challenge it as well, because it's never, like your face value truth, in that AI is just, well, at least particularly with ChatGPT, it learns over time based off of what users give it, and users can give it horrible stuff, and it will still try and use it anyway to try and give you that solution. So based off of what it is that you've learned in your university and experience so far, use that to challenge whatever it is that the ChatGPT is going to give you. Don't ever think that it's going to replace you. It won't, but it can guide you and it can help you to create better solutions.
Nice. So with that said, I guess you're still someone that advocates for going and studying towards becoming a software developer.
100%.
Engineer.
Yeah,
Okay.
I do.
Obviously, we understand still off the back of AI, right? We understand that African issues within the tech realm and across the board versus international issues that are faced are very, very different. Do you see that at the company that you're working on and also within personal projects like the Smart Mirror project? Are you catering more towards African-based issues? And if not, where do you sort of see yourself tailoring your expertise to African issues?
Oh man, I don't think a smart mirror is gonna help with African issues, unfortunately. But I do think the process of getting there might, in that it's not. The focus isn't necessarily on the mirror, but the journey towards the mirror in terms of, knowledge sharing, peer developments as well. That's something that I do think would be able to assist, I guess, in this situation. I do also think that social media does have a part to play in that, exposing what software engineering and the tech space even looks like as well, like just giving that, because I think when I was younger, like I think at 18, 19, I didn't have an example as to what that looked like every day. Like what does a software engineer do? Whereas people abroad might have a lot more exposure to such a thing, but social media has made it fantastic in such a way that like we can see it like firsthand from somebody day to day. This is what it looks like. And if I ever decided, at Rissa, let's maybe record everything that we do in terms of putting the mirror together, that in turn as well will expose younger people in South Africa in particular maybe to see that this is how things come together, at least in the tech industry.
And I think you're playing, sorry to interrupt you, I think you are playing a very important role, exposing your industry on social media. It might go somewhat unrecognizable to some people, that someone's just opening their phone discussing something that they're doing, whether it's skincare or tech. But I think in the grander scheme of things, somebody in another country who hasn't necessarily seen a black woman in tech could be inspired, to
even locally.
And media is such a powerful thing, because it's how people are able to kind of access different things that then otherwise wouldn't be able to access.
That's what I'm saying.
And so it's 2025, and now you have things like vibe coding. So I don't know how you feel about that, but do you think it's kind of a viable profession? Can somebody, kind of focus on that full time to be a vibe coder without kind of gaining the technical skills, but, just being good at just prompting and then creating whole applications and so forth? Do you think it's viable? Or do you actually also, would you recommend that path into kind of the field, or a more traditional,
Maybe I'm not understanding vibe coding. I don't think
Oh,
I've ever heard of a term.
I've got news for you.
Vibe coding.
So you have platforms like Cursor,
Windsurf.
even Claude,
Yes.
Windsurf.
VS
So
Code.
Yes.
yeah, you basically write a prompt,
Yes.
and it creates applications. It creates programs for
Yes.
you. Yeah. So
Okay,
yeah,
okay.
you don't have to kind of learn how to code in Python,
Right.
JavaScript.
Right.
Yeah.
No, okay, that's fair. That's fair. I mean, I think I could even like compare that to something like no code, for example. So if I'm not sure if you guys are familiar with something like WordPress, right?
Yeah.
So that's where people use that platform to kind of like drag and drop little components to create a whole website.
Sure.
Technically speaking, you don't need to have any technical experience to make that happen. Do I think it's a viable field? Maybe, in that you can create, like you said, you give it prompts to create applications. Maybe like, a mom website or like
Yeah.
a small little application for like
Sure.
a startup company. But for huge enterprise companies, I don't think so.
It's actually becoming quite interesting. I mean, especially with Cursor, and there is this kind of trickle-down effect that, I imagine, like you mentioned at BBD, you guys have like a grad program.
Right.
So the more they get exposed to these platforms, the less, I don't want to say they become less competent, but there is the risk of people kind of, the friction, not being exposed to the friction of learning, failing, and then learning
Time and
again.
attention.
That's
Yeah.
true, exactly.
And
That's
so, with platforms like Cursor, I mean, you're able to build programs and then also connect to the whole Google ecosystem, and then, set up
It sits
servers
up.
and
Right.
Cloud Shell and
Right.
Kubernetes
In
and
hours.
yeah, and build cloud infrastructure.
Right.
So yeah, and so I don't know, like, what do you have to say about that in terms of especially junior devs sharpening their skills, making sure that they're always sharp and not kind of falling for this trap of the shortcuts, the easy way
Right.
out.
Can happen
Right.
for you.
Yeah. I think this almost ties back to what I was referring to when it comes to like using ChatGPT as your source, for example. You still do need that, I guess, manual, for lack of a better word, experience to understand that this is how they all,
Come together.
connect together.
Sure,
You get what I'm saying? And also, someone needs to maintain that as well. And if you don't know how to, you can't really depend on that to assist you like entirely.
Yeah.
Sure. I want to take it back slightly,
Yeah.
right? So that young girl who decided to drop geography and get into this tech field, right? What words of wisdom would you have for her now after the experience that you've gained in the past few years?
Can you not be so
Since we
rash?
met.
I think that's yeah. Can you not
Sorry.
be so rash? But I do think what advice would I give her? Yeah, don't be so rash. I think maybe think about it carefully before you decide to drop your whole subject and take IT. But I think maybe I'll speak to when she started taking ITs that it's okay to fail. Fail twice,
Nice.
fail 3 times, but get up immediately afterwards and try and figure out why it happened and why you failed. Yeah.
I want to find out. So, how long have you been in the industry outside of, after school, rather?
I've been working since 2021, so about 4 years.
Okay, so you've got quite a lot of experience.
Right.
So, within that time, what ethical dilemmas have you seen yourself facing while developing, the applications that you've worked on?
So one of the things, and this is going to sound contradictory to what I said earlier, in that you can use ChatGPT as a tool to a certain extent. You can't also expose code bases to ChatGPT as well, right? ChatGPT will use anything that users give it to try and come up with the solution. So if you expose company sets, code to ChatGPT, it might even give that solution to somebody else potentially.
I think you need to say that a bit louder.
Do you get me? So what juniors I've noticed tend to do is that they will copy whole scripts, send it to ChatGPT and be like, can you help me, bruh? And that obviously, implicates the company in such a way that if this was supposed to be, not exposed and just, kept within the company, you've violated all of that.
Wouldn't you think it's better if maybe the company was to build their own internal LLM
100%.
and then consult with that?
100%, but that takes time. It really, really does. It's not something that you can just decide tomorrow, guys, we're going to do this. It takes
Sure.
time and training as well, and money, unfortunately.
Okay, sorry. I just want to continue to build on that.
Yeah.
right? So I've got a bit of experience within the UX and UI
Cool.
field, right? And something that they taught us when developing applications is that you need to try and avoid biases, right? Whether it's racial biases, gender biases, culture or whatever the case is. So I sort of want you to double tap on ethical dilemmas that you faced or maybe foresee yourself facing in the future. Maybe it's with a different company or something
I
along those lines.
I don't think I faced like particularly any ethical ones, if I'm being entirely honest with you. I do see it coming up in future, but no, I don't think there's any that
Nothing
I've
yet.
faced. No, nothing yet, at least. Yeah.
Okay, that's a good thing.
What do you believe is like the biggest misconception the world has about African tech development?
Biggest misconception. That we don't have the infrastructure to do it. Yeah. I think we do.
Also
I think we do.
capability part,
Yeah.
possibly.
You get me? I think yeah, I think we don't have I think we do have the infrastructure to do it. I just don't think we have the capable hands to do it yet. I think the education system is failing us down. So I think if we just focus on being able to equip more informed software developers and informed people in the tech space, that we'd be able to do a lot more than we're doing at the moment. I think the infrastructure is there. I just don't think we have the right people yet.
Makes sense.
And then kind of circling back to like junior devs, and there's so many new technologies, and I think it's kind of easy to get enticed by, you know, brand new shiny toys. But what are kind of the core fundamentals that you kind of believe that any all junior devs should have? You know, whether it be Python, JavaScript, or SQL. What are kind of the fundamentals that you think that every junior dev should have before kind of chasing a new shiny toy or a new trend?
I think bare bones languages would be your good set. So like, don't look at something like, for example, your frameworks. Like, don't look at React, don't look at Angular, look at JavaScript. Don't look at Spring Boot yet, look at Java. So look at the bare bones first before you decide, okay, now I want to start playing with tools and frameworks that'll make me develop even better.
Okay. And then, so, you know, of course, we're in South Africa, and a lot of people do not have the financial means to kind of educate themselves. And although there's a lot of platforms like Udemy where people can access courses, but sometimes people who don't have access to kind of these learning pods, and, you know, within the tech field, it's always been something that has been recommended that you kind of build good projects on GitHub. And so what are some of the projects that you think what are some of the interesting projects that you kind of recommend for people to work on or build, you know, so that they kind of build this good portfolio, so that
Become employable.
Yeah.
Right. I don't think a simple to-do app, hear me out. So I think when you watch, like you mentioned, when you watch courses, for example, on Udemy and stuff, and you gain more knowledge from that, most of the time these courses will ask you to build something super, super simple, like a to-do application.
Yeah.
Build up on that. We all know what your base is, because that's what, at the end of the day, companies with grad programs look for. We want to see your foundation first, right? What do you know? So if you can show us that you can build a to-do list, build on top of that as well. It's pointless to want to try and build an Instagram within a Spotify, within a TikTok, if you don't know what you're actually building from jump. Do you get what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So if you can show us how you got from to-do list to, I'm trying to think of Notion, for example, that would be good.
Also interesting to kind of find out within your field and where you work, how are you guys kind of using AI, you know, to kind of navigate the modern terrain of
Have you
this
guys
tech?
replaced any juniors yet?
No, we haven't.
No job
No.
Confidential.
No, we haven't. Yeah. So that'll be very confidential. None of us say that.
Sorry.
So two ways, right? Firstly, we do have a research and development portion of the company,
Nice.
and a lot of the companies or clients that do come to, you know, the software consultancy do ask for anything AI related stuff. I mean, it's a buzzword. So they're going to be like, how can we make this AI? How do we do this AI? And that's where that research and development team starts to, you know, give solutions surrounding that buzzword, but in a way that's actually that actually works. That's the first thing. The second thing is that, no, we haven't replaced anybody. If I do have to say, I don't think ChatGPT is going to be replacing any junior devs anytime soon. Like I mentioned before, it's a tool to help you. It's not going to replace you.
What do you think software development kind of looks like with within 5 to 10 years from now? Because I mean,
Considering AI too.
considering AI, considering agentic AI, I think there's a time when Mark Zuckerberg said, a portion of their company, their workforce, is like, I think he said right now it's like 15% AI. So what do you think software development looks like 5 years from now?
It might even be worse, like 30%. I wouldn't be surprised if that's what it looks like. I think the one thing that maybe software developers and software engineers should hop onto is don't be scared of AI, make it your friend, work with it. It's something that's going to get smarter and better over time. So you might as well make it your friend.
And how do you like constantly educate yourself in a field that's moving so rapidly? How do you like ensure that you're staying up to pace?
You have
all
your
the
phone in
time?
front of you all the time. Do some research, watch some TikToks, watch some
that
YouTubes.
simple.
It's that simple. If you're able to, switch on your phone and like put up a WhatsApp status, you are also in turn able to
100%.
watch YouTube videos and articles and whatnot.
Yeah, I think people tend to make it seem like it's a huge obstacle. Like I need
not.
to go do a course. I must go start this whole thing. You can literally just search on Google right now
100%.
how to do something.
100%.
Beautiful.
Last question from my end. Like, you in software development, you also do content creation, and you are doing both these stuff at the highest level. Right?
Yeah, no, sorry, just a bit of trauma.
Balance.
Yeah, balance.
How do you get around that?
That's so funny. So I was actually speaking to a friend of mine yesterday, and I compared like my software engineering side to be Miley Cyrus, and the other side to be Hannah Montana, and the two of them interchange way too much, like way too often than I care to admit, if I'm being honest. So you have 24 hours in a day, and I think that's the unfortunate reality of it. Some people say like, we don't all have the same 24 hours. It's a lie, we do. Just utilize it.
Prioritizing.
I want to know, like, what are, I mean, since we're in the AI boom era, the last 3 years have been crazy and also different. And I imagine you've kind of witnessed huge change. What are some of the recipes that you think have been lost? I mean, people's means of getting unstuck on, a block of code or trying to fix a bug. It used to be Stack Overflow. Now it's, ChatGPT.
Right.
So what do you think are, what have you witnessed to be some of the recipes that have been lost?
Right. So there's this one that I hold dear to my heart. It's actually like a concept that you learn as you're in university called Keep It Simple Stupid. It's actually called KISS, like as a short acronym, right? And what AI, I'll say ChatGPT in particular, tends to do is that it tends to overcomplicate a simple solution. Keep it simple, stupid. You don't need to depend on that. So like I said, if you already have the foundation set, you can use that as a tool to verify your solution, but don't use that entirely.
Wow. Okay. I think just as we bring things to a close, I really want to thank you for coming onto our platform and empowering us. If there was anything for all the ladies watching, young girls who are considering pivoting into tech, what are maybe 2 nuggets that you would offer them to, one, break into the industry, and then continue to expand, accessibility for women in the field?
I think one of the misconceptions that tech has, especially amongst the young ones, is that it's just software developers and people who code in the tech industry, which is far from the truth. There is a whole set of people and streams and systems that come into creating a feature in an application, i.e. it goes from product organizer to UX UI developer to front-end developer to back-end developer to QA testers. There's so many different sets of people in the space. So what I would implore people to do, like particularly the women to do, is to try and find that space in the tech industry that they feel like they could be great at. If you feel like you are very client-facing, people inclined, maybe consider business analysts. If you feel like you know how to problem solve, but you're not really that great in like development, try being a systems analyst. There's so many different parts of tech that exists. Don't just think it's just development. And if you're bad at that, then you're not for tech. It's wrong.
Ooh, love
Exactly.
that.
Now you
Mika,
guys-
thank you so much.
Yes, thank you
Such
very
a
much,
pleasure.
guys. And thank you all for watching yet another episode of Cyber Digest. Please ensure that you tell your mother and your mother's mother to like, subscribe, comment, and just share the podcast, because our job here is essentially to educate you guys on the field of technology. Thank you so much, gentlemen. This was a great one.
Yes, sir, Ski.
Signing out.
We out.
Next one.